Hi guys, how's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. I miss you guys a lot. This is going to be our first ELA lesson, and we're going to be reading from our textbook. So if you grab your textbook, your ELA textbook, and follow right along with me, it's on page 198. We're going to be reading a story called Suki's Kimono. So go ahead and flip to that page, 198. I have a guest here who wants to say hi. Hold on one second. This is my cat, Tammy, and she wanted to say hi. Say hi, Tammy. Hi, guys. All right, I'm going to let her go now because she doesn't like this. All right, so we're on page 198. And the story is called Suki's Kimono. It's by Shieri Ugaki and illustrated by Stephanie Jarisk. Now, if you look down at the bottom of 198, it says genre. And our genre this week is realistic fiction. And that is when it's made up characters, but they could be real characters or they could be real people in real life. And then our question of the week, or our essential question, is how does culture influence the clothes that we wear? So right now I want you guys to just think about the different types of clothes that you wear to school every day or you just wear every day. And think about how it might be a little bit different from maybe kids who live in other countries. Okay, and when you're ready, you can flip the page. We're on page 200. Let me make sure this video is looking at me right. Okay, you can see me fine. All right. On the first day of school, Suki wanted to wear her kimono. Her sisters did not approve. "You can't wear that," said Mari. "People will think you're weird." "You can't wear that," said Yumi. "Everyone will laugh and no one will play with you." "You need something new, Suki. You need something cool." But Suki shook her head. She didn't care for new. She didn't care for cool. She wanted to wear her favorite thing. And her favorite thing was her kimono. So if you look at the picture of Suki, you can see exactly what a kimono looks like. Now, what I want to think about before we move on to the other page is I want you to think about comparing and contrasting between Suki and her sisters. How would you compare Suki to her sisters? So think about that for a second. And I think the answer would be that, well, they have different ideas about what they like to wear and what is cool maybe to everyone else. But I think that Suki doesn't really care. I think she doesn't care what people think of her and she just wants to wear what she wants to wear and be herself. All right, page 201. Suki's Oba-chan had given her the kimono. The first time Suki wore it, her Oba-chan took her to a street festival where they slurped bowls of slippery cold somen noodles and shared a cone of crunchy shaved ice topped with a sweet red bean sauce. So there's a couple things on here that you might be unsure of. And the word Oba-chan, Suki's Oba-chan, that actually means her grandmother. Now, there's another word on here that's highlighted, and it's festival. And I brought my vocabulary cards home to show you. If you look at this, this is a picture of a festival, which is a celebration or a party. Okay, sometimes it's held annually or every year. So there's festival. Under strings of paper lanterns, Suki joined her Oba-chan in a circle dance. She followed her and copied her movements, trying to be as light and as graceful. She watched the other women and children who danced, especially those who were dressed in cotton kimonos like herself. So there's two more highlighted words there, two more vocab words, and we have graceful. Now, what graceful means is it means to be beautiful in your movement, in the way that you move. So Suki, as she was dancing around with her Oba-chan, she was dancing gracefully around. Kind of like the way that I dance when we do our brain breaks in class. I am very graceful. Not really. And the next one is cotton. And cotton is a cloth that's made from plant. So if you think about a lot of the different shirts and clothes that you wear, a lot of it is made actually from cotton, which comes from a cotton plant. All right, let's move to the next page. We're on page 202. Later, Suki sat so close to the stage that when the taiko drummers performed, bam, 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 she felt like she'd swallowed a ball of thunder, and her whole insides quaked and quivered. Before they left the festival, Suki and her Obachan stopped at a souvenir stand. There were many things to choose from, but her Obachan found the prettiest thing of all, a handkerchief of pale pink linen, decorated with tiny maple leaves and cherry blossoms. When she gave it to Suki, she said, "This will help you remember our day." Now it was time for school. Mother checked Suki's obi one last time and took a picture of Mari, Yumi, and Suki together by the front steps. Now there are 2 more vocabulary words on this page, so I'm going to show you my cards. The first one here we have is handkerchief. And a handkerchief is just a square piece of cloth that people use to wipe their nose, face, or hands. Actually, my grandfather still carries around one in his pocket, which is kind of gross, but he uses it to blow his nose, and then he washes it at the end of every day. And the other vocab word that we have is pale. And pale just means to be light in color. So if we look at this picture of the roses, they are a pale pink. It's not very bright, it's just a light color of pink. And on to page 203. Then as she watched, the 3 sisters made their way down the block to their school. Mari and Yumi stayed several paces ahead of Sumi and pretended they didn't know her. Now, the word paces, I'll stop again, is just another word for steps. And if you look at this picture, you can see that the man is pacing in a large circle in the sand, and you can see all of his footprints. So pacing is the same thing as taking steps. But Suki didn't mind. She turned and waved to her mother before she clip-clopped along in her shiny red gaita, feeling very pleased in her fan-patterned blue kimono. Page 204. Once in a while, Suki would lift her arms and let the butterfly sleeves flutter in the breeze. It made her feel like she'd grown her own set of wings. When they reached the school, Mari and Yumi hurried across the yard to a group of their friends. Suki stopped and she looked around. Some of the children turned and stared at her, and others giggled and pointed at her kimono. But Suki just ignored them. So let's just stop and think for a second. I want to ask a cause-effect question. Now I know you can't answer me, but I'm going to ask anyway. What is the cause for the other students pointing and laughing at Suki? So I want you to think about that. What caused that to happen? Well, I believe that the cause is what she is wearing. The other students see what her kimono and what she is wearing, if you look at the picture, and they think she looks different. They think she looks funny, maybe a little bit weird, which is really not very nice. Move on to page 205. She took a seat on a swing to wait for the bell. A girl dressed in overalls, just like a pair Suki had at home, sat on the swing beside her. "Hi, Suki," said the girl. "Hi, Penny," said Suki. "How come you're dressed so funny?" Penny asked. "Where did you get those shoes?" Suki lifted her feet off the sand and wiggled her toes. "I'm not dressed funny," she said. "My grandma gave me these shoes." Suki started pumping her legs. After a moment, Penny did the same, and soon they were both swinging as fast and as high as they could. Swoosh, swoosh, up and up. Now, before we flip the page, let's make a prediction. Now, I know I can't hear all of your predictions, But if you were to make a prediction for what's going to happen, maybe in the future, what would it be? Now, I believe that after reading this page, I think Suki and Penny are getting along pretty well, and she's asking her questions, and I think that they might end up even becoming friends. Okay, turn to page 206. When the bell rang, Suki and Penny jumped off their swings and ran to the gym for the first day assembly. Once they were finally taken to their new classroom, Suki chose a desk near the window. Penny chose a desk next to Suki. As they waited for everyone to find a seat, two boys in front of Suki turned and snickered behind their hands. One of the boys reached over and snatched at Suki's sleeve. "Look at this," he said. "She's a bat." Now, let's think about this for a second. Another cause and effect question. What do you think the effect is for the comments made by the boy? So the boy made these comments. The effect would be probably Suki is feeling a little bit upset. She's probably feeling maybe angry and a little bit embarrassed, because if some of her other classmates heard, that definitely might have made her upset and embarrassed. Now, if you turn to page 207, the very first thing that it says Suki felt her cheeks burn. Now, that definitely proves that Suki was feeling maybe a little bit embarrassed, because sometimes we turn red in the face when we get embarrassed. Suki felt her cheeks burn, but she did not respond. Instead, she concentrated on sitting up straight and tall, the way her Oba-chan always did. It was easy to do, with an obi wrapped snug around her middle. Her obi was golden yellow, and in its folds, Suki had tucked away her pale pink handkerchief. "Welcome to first grade," said the teacher. "My name is Mrs. Paggio." She smiled. "Let's introduce ourselves and tell everyone what we did this summer." When it was her turn to speak, Suki stood up and told the teacher her name. "Hello, Suki," said Mrs. Paggio. "What did you do this summer?" "My grandma visited me," she said, straightening her sleeves. "She brought me my kimono and my gaita." Suki raised her foot to show the teacher her wooden clog. Go ahead and turn the page. Page 208. Oh, I forgot a vocab word. Hold on. This word is snug. And another word for snug means to be tight or fitting to the body closely. So if something is snug, it feels very tight to your skin. Okay, page 208. Somewhere in the classroom, someone laughed, but Suki took a deep breath and continued. "The best thing was that she took me to the festival. And there were dancing girls dressed like me. And they danced like this." She took a few steps and swayed her arms sideways. "Look, now she's dancing," someone said, but Suki didn't hear. She hummed the music she remembered hearing at the festival. Page 209. She remembered how it felt to dance barefoot in the open air on fresh-cut grass that tickled her toes. She tried to picture the other dancers, how they moved forward in the circle with the rhythm of the music, how they stamped their feet, first right, then left, swung their arms, first up, then down, how they stepped back and back and back, then clapped. When Suki couldn't remember the next step, she made it up, just to keep dancing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, stop. When she finished, the room seemed very quiet, and everyone was watching her. Suki sat down, wondering if she was in trouble. Now at this point, I'm wondering, why do you think that the students didn't laugh this time? Before they were laughing at Suki. How come they weren't laughing now? Well, I believe that they kind of understand now what this means to Suki and how important it is to her. And I think that they were just fascinated in the different things that Suki had learned and of her new dance. And another word on here we have, in our last vocab word, is rhythm. And rhythm is another word for a beat. So when she is dancing to her new dance, she's following that step. It's the 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's the beat that she follows, the rhythm that she follows in order to stay on track with her dancing steps. Flip the page. Page 210. But Mrs. Paggio said, "That was wonderful, Suki." And she started to clap. Then, so did Penny. And after a moment, so did the entire class. After school, as the three sisters walked home together, Mari and Yumi grumbled about their first day. "No one even noticed my new sweater," said Mari. "No one even noticed my cool shoes," said Yumi. But Suki just smiled. As she clip-clopped along behind them, Suki pulled out the pale pink handkerchief from her obi and held it up over her head to catch the wind. And in her blue cotton kimono and in her shiny red gaita, Suki danced all the way home. All right, so that is the end of our story. I got a couple more questions, though, that we need to think about. Now, we need to think about what the theme of the story was, which is, what is the lesson? What is the author trying to teach you after reading this story? Think about that for a moment. So what the theme of this story is it's don't be afraid to be yourself, because Suki in this story was not afraid to be herself. She wore exactly what she wanted to wear, unlike her sisters, and she didn't care what people thought of her. And really, in the end, the rest of her classmates learned to appreciate what she had and what she was wearing, and then they thought it was cool. So that's why it's important to always be yourself. Now, if we think back to our essential question, how culture influences the clothes that we wear, a lot of the clothes that Suki was wearing during the story is a strong reflection of where she lives. And she lives actually in Japan. And in Japan, they have cherry blossom trees and lots of pretty flowers like that. So because they see that, that's what they put onto their clothing, like the kimono that Suki was wearing. So that is kind of how the culture that Suki has influenced the clothes that she wore. And that's the end of our story, guys. Thanks for reading along with me. I'll be posting a math video tomorrow. And I hope you guys learned something, and I look forward to our next video. So have a good day, guys, and remember to keep up with all your schoolwork the rest of the week. Bye, guys.